Hello everyone, it's time to take a leap. Welcome to part 2 of analytical paragraph writing. In part 1, we covered what are mind maps, flowcharts, pie charts, line graphs, bar graphs and tables. We also discussed how to observe them. Now let's embark on our second milestone. So, what are we learning today? We are learning format, vocabulary, guidelines, do's and don'ts. Before that, I have a golden tip for all of you. Now, before you start writing, you need to perform your pre-writing task. It is a 6-question challenge for you, wherein before you start your paragraph, you need to think about these 6 questions. If you're able to answer these 6 questions, you'll definitely be able to write the paragraph at ease. Let us look at the 3 questions that you will appear for. Yes, the questions are, the first one, try to understand what kind of a visual is given in the question. Is it a graph, table, pie chart or flow chart? That's the first step towards beginning your questioning. Question 2, what is the data about? That is to identify the subject of the data or to look for the topic sentence. After that, look for the extra details. What are the extra details given? That is, what is the period of the survey? Which is the target group of the survey? Is it meant for the teenagers or the older generation or people of different countries and so on? Then the place where the survey was conducted. Look for these extra details. Then come to question number 4. What is the trend or pattern in the graph or table? Do you see the values as sharply increasing? Or is there a steep decline? Or is there a steady decline? After finding the pattern, find the highest and the lowest values. Are you able to identify the highest and the lowest? And are there any values which are constant over a period of time? Try to identify all of these. If you're able to answer all of these 6 questions, it means you have all the required content for writing the analytical paragraph. Hope you will be able to remember these questions. If you feel it's difficult for you to remember these questions, take my advice. After exams, keep some time for cutting cakes and partying in trendy clothes. Hey, are you wondering about what I said just now? It's just a mnemonic for you to remember all of these 6 questions. Let us have a look at it. Here is the mnemonic. Keep some time for cutting cakes and partying in trendy clothes. K for kind of data, S for subject or title, T for time period, C for compare, contrast, parts or categories, trends and conclusion. And in this one mnemonic, you can see that the entire analytical paragraph is covered. Just observe again. The first 3 will make your paragraph 1 and the comparison, contrast, parts and categories along with the trend will make your paragraph 2, which will be your largest paragraph, and conclusion will be your last paragraph. So the relative size of your paragraphs will also be according to this. Para 1 will only be about 2 or 3 sentences, para 2 will be about 6 to 7 sentences, and para 3 will be again just 2 sentences. Let us now move to the format. The format is very simple and the format is same format is followed for all kinds of graphs, charts and tables. The introduction, body and conclusion. Now, many students have a doubt about writing a title. Let me make it clear that no title is required in an analytical paragraph. As per the CBSE's latest sample paper key, this has been made very clear. Now, secondly, there's also a doubt among students about writing whether one long paragraph or can they write 3 paragraphs. Now, both are acceptable. Only difference is when you write one single long paragraph, you will cover your introduction, body and conclusion without leaving lines or breaking into paragraphs. But I would definitely suggest you to go for 3 paragraphs as the content looks more organized, presentable, and you can get better marks with that. Let us now move on to the introduction. As said before, the introduction is going to be just a short one covering only what kind of a visual is given and what is the subject of the data or the graph. You will also write any extra information if it is provided, like who is the data about, what is being talked about, when, the year, place if given of the survey, etc. Now here there's one tip for you. When you're writing analytical paragraph introduction, do not copy the exact line from the question. Try to paraphrase it. What do you mean by paraphrasing? Paraphrasing means putting the same content in slightly different words. And how can you do it? You can do it easily by putting the synonyms of the keywords, replacing the keywords with their synonyms, or changing the sentence structure. At times you can even change the adjectives to noun forms. Say for example, technology can be put up as technological advancement or things like that. So don't use the exact line because that shows that you don't have the proficiency in writing. So instead of picking up the same exact line, try to paraphrase it. Now look at the vocabulary that is ideal for writing the introduction. You can start your first paragraph by saying the chart describes, the table suggests, the line graph shows, the data given provides information about, or the pie chart illustrates. So these are some of the ways in which you can begin your paragraph. Now let's move on to the body, which is the main content of your paragraph. The body, the first part of the body would explain the trend. Okay, therein you have to identify the trend, that is the pattern, by quoting exact figures or values from the chart, graph or table. Second, compare and contrast. Mention about the highest values, the corresponding category. Likewise, make a mention of the lowest values and its corresponding categories. For the body, you can see that there is a wide range of vocabulary which can be used for describing quantities and even describing trends. Say for example, if you have a pie chart, you can use vocabulary like 1/3 or nearly 1/4 of, you all know that 50% is half and 25% is a quarter. Likewise, 75% can be said as 1/3 and so on. So if you are able to easily make out, you can use these kinds of expressions. Or if the numbers are given, try to use the exact figures like 48% of the females, 80% of the gadgets sold were smartphones, etc. Okay, so you can also use expressions like twice as much as, the highest, the lowest, very closely, approximately. When you're not using the exact value, if you're not sure about it, say for example the line graph, if you're not able to see comparatively where the line graph, at what value is it falling, you can use the word approximately and the percentage. Likewise, for describing trend, you can use vocabulary like rapidly doubled, the prices rapidly doubled in so and so year, skyrocketed, striking increase, peaked rate, soaring, declined, plummeted, leveled off, stagnated, fluctuated, started to rise, starting to fall, etc. And for making comparison and contrast, this is very important. These will also help you for connecting your paragraphs. You can use expressions. If you're comparing something with similarities, you can say that in comparison to, it is dash is same as dash, or similarly, also, to, as well as, likewise. And for contrast, you can use expressions like in contrast with, but in the opposite case, or on the other hand, however, while, whereas, although, even though, when it comes to, as opposed to, a striking difference, a noticeable difference, etc. Let us now move to the conclusion. The conclusion is just a summary of the key findings. So summarize your key findings and make inference from the body and present a conclusion. Always remember that your conclusion should sound like a closing statement. And the vocabulary which is ideal for summarizing is, you can begin your conclusion with these expressions. In conclusion, in all, by and large, to sum up, on the whole, in essence, all in all, overall, it has been noted, for the most part, subsequently, in a nutshell, in conclusion, etc. Now, let us move on to the do's and don'ts. And I'll not cover the part which I've already covered because I have talked about lots of things already. I'll exclude all those points here. Now, keep your language very simple and formal. Remember that analytical paragraph writing is a formal writing task. You cannot use personal pronouns here. So avoid using personal pronouns. Present your information in an orderly manner. If you have the categories, plan. Either you take it in a hierarchical manner, or you take it by taking first the comparisons and then the differences. So follow an order. Mention figures and quantities accurately. Now this is very important because you cannot round off the figures. And if you're not very sure of what the value is, use the word approximately, about, and so on. Use appropriate vocabulary and transition words. I've given you a lot of words which can be used. Please go through it again and again and use these. Avoid repetition of phrases, because if you repeat the phrases, it shows that you lack a good expression and you lose your marks for expression. Let me remind you, your marks are for your content, fluency, and expression and accuracy. Lastly, no extra information to be provided. Stick to what is given. Put only the facts which are before you and use the same tense throughout. As far as possible, try to use the passive form of the verbs, which will give a formal tone to your write-up. Now, here we come to an end of the part 2. But the last and a very important piece of advice from my side for all of you is, when you are attempting analytical paragraph writing questions, do not panic. Your brain cannot work to its full potential if you are in a panic mode and all your hard work goes waste. So stay calm, read the question with a very clear mind, carry out a very close reading of the question, give a second and a third reading if required. By doing so, you will be able to identify the main idea and also the supporting details. Think that it's going to be very simple for you because everything is given. You just have to convert the visual form into a written form by using the right format and using appropriate vocabulary and expression. Hope you can write analytical paragraphs very easily now. Keep practicing different kinds of questions to perfect yourself and share the video with your friends and other students of Standard 10 as a gesture of goodwill. Do connect again for more videos on writing skills. Thank you and happy reading.